All right, looks like it is 3:01, and we will begin the Tuolumne County Transit Agency and the agenda. Oral communication to allow the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. That would be this time, this opportunity. Seeing none, I'm going to go to the consent calendar. Item 2, approval of the July 12, 2017 meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the 2017 July 12th minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Regular agenda, item 3, progress report on the construction of the Tuolumne Transit Center.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tyler was just out there for a project team meeting, and I'm going to let him give the update, and I may have some comments after his presentation.
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, didn't sound like it.
I'll try to speak up here.
Thank you.
There you go. Kiss it. I don't know how else to explain.
Thank you. So yeah, construction work at the site continues to move quickly. The focus has been on Justice Center Drive proper. Reaching back a few weeks, the trench work we'd been waiting to do since the beginning of the project was done, backfilled. That's all been compacted now. So far, we are staying on schedule. There was one threat there with the Detweiler fire and our PG&E work that needed to get done. They had put us on hold temporarily, but luckily, due to the good work of CAL FIRE and others, that is no longer an imminent threat to our project. Staff a couple weeks ago hosted a member of the CAL OES, the Office of Emergency Services, staff person who came to check in on our projects. We've got about $150,000 of CAL OES funding tied up in the building, mostly security enhancements, cameras, and technology to help track the buses. They were very pleased with the project and our progress and the money that we've spent on the project to date. We received yesterday our first prototype for the furniture, and so we'd encourage you to come by the third floor of the Albert N. Francisco building when you get a chance and see that and test it out. We'll quickly move from this prototype into the final design with our local contractor Metalworks and have the rest of those fabricated and moved onto site as quickly as possible. And finally, an update on our bid to polish the floors. We had let a bid in July. Unsuccessfully, we received no bids. I think that is kind of a sign of this economy, and things are heating up. It's a fairly small project, 1,000 square feet of polishing those floors. So we have reissued the bid and doubled down with some local and regional contractors and made some calls, and just to make sure everyone's aware this opportunity is out there. And so we're hopeful that that we'll get a bid on that. That bid is currently available on the Tuolumne County Transportation Council.org website. So if anyone's interested, they can get more information on the project there. And then as of today, our project development team meeting, looks like the site may get energized as soon as next week. We're hopeful that PG&E can be on site next Friday. The landscaping is all going to be installed this upcoming week. The concrete and flat work is currently being poured. Sidewalk is probably 60% done, and the first half of the bus bay where the buses will all turn into the project and stack up has been poured. The second half will be poured tomorrow. So we are moving quickly, as I mentioned at the beginning, and looking forward to closing this project out, and probably next month we'll come to you with some dates for looking at doing some kind of an opening and a dedication of the facility. Aaron?
I think Tyler's covered everything that I was wanting to see covered, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Good question.
I have none.
John?
Yeah, could you post a picture of the furniture or send me a picture of it? Just
Certainly.
Save me a walk over there, just want to take a look at it.
Actually, I was going to tag onto that and ask you guys to email us so we know when the furniture's there to be tested.
It arrived
Test flight?
yesterday. It is.
Oh, it is, okay.
yeah.
I was,
And it is heavy
Great.
stuff, so
So you
we're
got the
collecting
verbal
comments.
email
and-
today.
got the verbal email, you're right.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving.
So, we're collecting comments from staff and anyone else that chooses to sit and look at it, and we'll share those with Eric from Metal Makers, and we've got some refinements to do.
Okay. Anything else on the floor? Moving that along, getting some bids?
I think what we can tell you is we had some firsthand discussions with some contractors. One of them a local contractor that does this work, and they've sent their estimator out, and I think we're very likely to get a bid next week from them.
Okay. All right.
Just need a little extra encouragement.
Any public comment on the transit center? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item 4. Approve resolution number 41-17 to increase the maximum annual funding for special event transit services to $16,000.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As you know, we did pass a resolution back in October 2013 that created some policies for providing specialized transit services to events in Tuolumne County that were open to the general public. The attempt would be to alleviate some of the traffic congestion at these events, maybe reduce pedestrian vehicle conflicts, parking impacts, and whatnot. And so we've been providing service to a variety of events, the 49er Festival, the Father's Day Fly-In, the Fair, the Christmas Parade, and perhaps others. And when we looked at our budget this year, we realized we're on track for exceeding the cap that we originally put on this program of $10,000. And so we either need to increase that cap, just to meet existing demands, we expect it to be around $12,750. If you want to give yourself some additional cushion to provide services to other events, we'd encourage you to consider raising the cap to $16,000. Otherwise, we'll have to probably cut back on some of the services we provide at these events. Generally, they're very successful. My recommendation is that you would increase the cap to $16,000. We'll make the final adjustment in the line items in our final budget. They'll come to you next month. My intent would not to grow the overall budget, but instead shift some money over from marketing over to specialized services. I do consider this as kind of marketing promotion of our services. It exposes the bus service to people that don't normally ride transit. We don't normally spend all of our marketing money anyway, so this is a no net cost impact from my perspective. So with that, we'd recommend that you approve Resolution 41-17.
Questions?
I have a question. Darren, the type of organizations that can use this type of service that's specified in the resolution, they are, so the general public knows?
We specifically state that the eligible applicants will be charitable, nonprofit, and service organizations or public agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment?
Well, as you know, I like to see people put their butts on these buses. And so I still think we need more marketing so that more people would use these buses, because maybe I'll hear a different figure tonight, but I heard that only 500 people used it to go to the fair. So I would like to see thousands, because this is what, 2,800 people you said used it? That doesn't seem like very many for all the events that we had. So I think we need to increase our usage for these special events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Kopp with the Tuolumne County Business Council. You know, attracting events like these when we need revenue for the fairgrounds, and when you've got guys like Doug Kennedy working with the Visitors Bureau and others that have done the, you know, the music concerts and other things, there's no doubt that this will be a good attraction, and it's something that we would like to see expanded and done more in this town. So I think that it would be a beneficial use to give this thing and move forward with it. So we would recommend approval.
Thank you. All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Resolution 41-17 to increase the transit services, event transit services to $16,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, looks like the motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, approval of special event transit services request from the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau.
Mr. Chair, I would like to recuse myself from this item. In my volunteer role as chair of Stage 3 Theater Company, I am involved in ongoing business discussions with Trado Corporation, who is the sponsor of this event. Although I have no financial conflict of interest in relation to this item, in an abundance of caution, I am recusing myself from this discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we received application from the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau requesting we provide special event transit services to the Unruly Country Brew and Q event hosted at the Tuolumne County Fairgrounds on September 30th, 2017. This event's expected to draw a large crowd in excess of 2,000 attendees. It's open to the public. It certainly has economic benefits potentially to Tuolumne County and the downtown businesses and merchants. We believe the event certainly would benefit from public transit services, again, improving pedestrian safety, parking impacts, and traffic congestion and whatnot. This does meet your criteria for special event services, and we would encourage you to approve Resolution 12- approve serving this event on September 30th. We do have a few people here from the public, so I'd encourage you to open up public comment before taking a vote.
All right. We'll entertain that public comment at this time. So if you are here on this item, this would be that.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Phillips, and I work for Trado Restaurant Corp. I work on the marketing and event coordination team. I want to let you all know who we are, what we do, and what our long-term vision is. Bear with me as it is relevant to our application for shuttle services to our Unruly Country Brew and Q Festival. Trado Restaurant Corp. was founded by Doug Kennedy and oversees and manages the Bourbon Barrel, the soon-to-be Green Dog Beer Company, the soon-to-be renovated events hall, and retail store coming to the Sonora Armory Complex on South Green Street in downtown Sonora. Our goal with the Sonora Armory is to make our complex the hub of downtown Sonora, as well as a stopping point for tourists. In addition to our family-friendly restaurants by day and bars by night, we will be hosting regular events in our new venue, in addition to off-site locations such as the Motherlode Fairgrounds. The Unruly Country Brew and Q Festival is the first of many events we will be holding in hopes of fulfilling our long-term vision, which is putting Sonora and Tuolumne County on the map and bringing more tourists to our area. The Unruly Country Brew and Q Festival is a one-day event held on September 30th at the Motherlode Fairgrounds. This event is highlighted by our country music main stage with 5 national acts. In addition, there will be a pro-style bull riding competition, cornhole tournament with a $2,500 purse, line dancing lessons and dance floor hosted by Stoney's Rockin' Rodeo out of Sacramento, beer and wine gardens, and a Kansas City Barbecue Society sanctioned California State Championship. Barbecue entries, just so you guys know, have come from all over the state, with the majority being from Southern California. The festival does run all day. The gates open at 11 a.m. and will close approximately at 10 p.m. This is a family-friendly event. The cost of production for this event is approximately $250,000. About $50,000 of that goes directly into marketing efforts. excuse me, with over 80% of that going toward out-of-county advertising. Although we're advertising locally with Clark Broadcasting, we have also bought ads with Cat Country in Modesto, KRTY out of the Bay Area, and KNCI out of Sacramento. Our paid social media advertising targets as south as Fresno, through the entire Central Valley, covers the entire Bay Area, greater Sacramento area, pushes through the foothills, and into the Reno and Tahoe area. All the radio stations are doing both ticket giveaways and weekend getaways, in addition to the normal advertisements, which does bring people up here guaranteed. We currently have just under 2,000 confirmed attendees, with 60% of sales being from outside of Tuolumne and even Calaveras counties. We have several artist superfans coming from out of state, including New York, Texas, Nebraska, Arizona, and Washington, not to mention many from Southern California. We now anticipate 4,000 to 5,000 attendees at the event, with the majority of being from outside the area. Bringing tourists up not only supports the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau vision, but also the Vision Sonora goals. As listed on the Vision Sonora website, quote, the plan is focused around the following goals that capture the main points in the comments, concerns, and ideas of the community members. 1, strengthen Sonora's identity and history. 2, attract and welcome visitors. 3, create places to enjoy. 4, boost downtown appeal and commerce. 5, enable pedestrian and bicycle travel. And 6, take care of locals. Our event supports strengthening Sonora's identity, attracts visitors, creates an event at a place that is enjoyable, and boosts downtown commerce with the influx of visitors. Filling the hotels with these visitors will generate tax revenue that goes directly to both the city and state, along with benefiting the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau overall budget to market to tourists and bring more people into the county and city limits. In addition, the amount of money that will be spent at local restaurants, bars, stores, and more will help both local businesses along with the city and county via tax revenue. We are also happy to support the fairgrounds, as the money that goes back to them will be used to better the venue and the fair itself. We have chosen the Sonora Chamber of Commerce as the organization to receive a donation in exchange for volunteer services in the beer booths. In addition, we are financially sponsoring local and regional sports teams in exchange for some volunteer services from the team members and affiliates. Furthermore, we are offering one free general admission ticket to all Tuolumne, Calaveras, and Mariposa County first responders. We do support the community and want to make sure this event gives back. Once again, with the flood of visitors to Tuolumne County and the city of Sonora, some of our primary focuses with this event are accessibility for out-of-towners and safety. We have spoken to Sonora PD, who is trying to make sure they bring an extra officer on duty that day to do regular walkthroughs of the event, as long as they're not tied up elsewhere. In addition, CHP will be present with a booth with a breathalyzer in it. We have a signed contract with the Tuolumne County Sheriff's Department to bring 4 officers into the event for 8 hours of security presence. We have even taken it one step further and are bringing in a private security company to use wands to monitor for weapons and such. All entrants will go through the screening process and receive a wristband to show they have paid to enter the event and have passed security. All persons without a wristband will be escorted off the property. Perimeter security will be in place to prevent people from trespassing onto the premises. Our emphasis on accessibility to this event is important in providing a positive experience for out-of-towners. Most will be staying in hotels, so our proposed shuttle service would route through the larger hotels and most hotels in town to accommodate those persons. In addition, as we all know, the available parking at the fairgrounds is extremely limited. The shuttle service will not only help provide a better experience for out-of-towners, but also to local taxpayers who would normally not be able to find parking in walking distance of the fairgrounds. Furthermore, cabs and Ubers are not always economically feasible for locals and are too limited in numbers to cater to an event as large as ours. Shuttle service with the use of trolleys would solve all of these problems. This event is very unique to Tuolumne County and will continue to grow. As the event grows and we begin to host other big events such as these, so does tourism. We are already marketing and working on another large event for 2018, which is going to be a reggae concert and most likely Bruce style event. freestyle event in May. These large-scale events are just the beginning of what we are going to do at Trado. As time moves forward and our staff grows, events like this will be a regular occurrence. As a transplant to Tuolumne County, I often hear my out-of-area friends and acquaintances say, "Oh, I know where Sonora is, wine country." My hope, along with the rest of Trado Restaurant Corporations, is that when people say Sonora, they think mountains, not wine. The Unruly Country Festival is the first big step on our behalf in making this happen, and it's only the first of many large events to come hosted by us. Passing our application and granting us shuttle service is vital to catering to the large influx of tourists who will come back year after year for this event as we grow it to what we hope to be a weekend-long festival with even more well-known artists in the future. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tiffany?
I got one.
George?
George?
Yeah. Tiffany, what did you mention about the percentage that were from out of town at this point?
As of right now, 60% of sales are from out of county, and we've got 5 states other than California represented.
And where would the bus pickup areas be that would deliver them down to the fairgrounds?
We've gotten approval from the Junction Shopping Center. Best Western, we've worked with on a sponsorship package. So actually the owner of the Best Western asked that we do provide shuttle service there, and I have talked to Darren. If this does pass, that's feasible. In addition, we would like to route through the Inns of California and Sonora Inn in the downtown area to encourage people to stay downtown. Along with, because Aladdin Inn is right across from Best Western, possibly Aladdin Inn as well. Another option that we do have, if this passes, our presenting sponsors, Chicken Ranch Casino, and they do have parking that's available to us if the shuttle would be willing to loop down to Jamestown, which for us, we would encourage the people from the valley who are going to drive back home that night to park there so they don't have to drive all the way up the hill.
And these folks coming from out of the area, how are they going to know that these parking spots are available? Not around the fairgrounds, but somewhere
Marketing.
else? Yeah.
We have a large marketing team on staff. We're actually redesigning our website right now, so we'll actually have an accommodations tab along with places to visit in Tuolumne County, like, obviously Yosemite National Park, but, the Railtown, Jamestown area, Columbia State Park, that type of stuff, Pinecrest. So we'll have some recommendations of what to see while they're up here, as well as where to stay and transportation needs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And those details are still being worked out with Tyler and
Right.
Transit.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want anybody to think that it's
Yeah.
all in cement.
Nothing's in stone. This is just what we're hoping can happen, and we're open to whatever is available and thankful for any opportunity.
Yeah, my comment is when I first read this agenda item, my biggest concern was how do we control the unruly visitors? And it seems like you have it pretty well covered with your security out.
We do, yes.
Says the guy from Groveland.
Mike Ayala is going to control the parking. this time.
Michael do it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Any other public comments? Thank you, Tiffany.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Glenn Caldwell. I'm here representing the Tuolumne County Business Council as president. Okay, I would encourage you to support the event on the agenda item, seeing as how now you have the funding. That doesn't seem to be an issue. Okay, and at the same time, while I personally might have tagged it with a different name, but unruly it is. And perhaps from a social perspective, this is an event that the transit agency really should be involved and be running transit, maybe keep some of these people out of their cars too. Okay, but the Business Council strongly supports business owners risking their capital that will ultimately spread throughout the county and the city, and we strongly support entrepreneurs that would do these kinds of events and more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure this is a lovely event, but I'm opposed to this. And I was at the Citizens Advisory Council, and the conversation was much different, as I recall. And when Tiffany was making her presentation, she talked about this being a shuttle service, and you are not a shuttle service company, you are a transit company. So I have some questions as to whether providing service for a for-profit event is within your sphere. And then, as I recall, the Celtic Fair pays for their shuttle service, and I'm not sure about Fire on the Mountain, but if you're going to extend this for this event, then in all fairness, you should extend it to all the other for-profit events, and that takes you down a whole different road. So you're going to be setting a precedent here, and I would advise you to take that very seriously. Thank you.
So, Miss Visitors Bureau, I understand there is a connection. I would like to hear about that
Sure.
relationship.
At our last, I'm Lisa Mayo, Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau. At our last board meeting, I presented a sponsorship opportunity for this event to our board. And our board had a lot of discussion about it because there was a couple things that aren't normal for our board to agree to sponsor, because one, it being a non-profit or a for-profit event, and also it being the first year event. But we also were very aware of the amount of marketing dollars being put with this event outside the area that's bringing in new business. I think at that time it was around 75% of the pre-sale tickets were out-of-towners, and we really wanted to support this idea. We became a sponsor, and then that is when Trado Restaurant Corporation asked us if we could help in securing some transit services for the event as a nonprofit that was helping with this event. So that's how we got involved. And I had emailed Tyler and I said, does this sound appropriate? Does this sound like something that we should do? And it sounded like we should just go for it. I think Tyler and I were both headed out of town like the next day or something, so it was very last minute. But we do feel that it has the makings of a great event. It has the makings of something that we can continue on in the future. And, we want people to have a good experience when they're here. And our fairgrounds doesn't have great parking. And if we can encourage people to go and park somewhere like the Junction and go spend money around the county, I think that's a great thing. And we would just like to see this happen to make it a good experience for our visitors and also for our residents, so that people will continue to come back. Any questions?
Any questions for Lisa? Thank you very much. And I would note the application is submitted by the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau. Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Any comments, questions, or entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm in favor of this. I'll move for approval on it, but I want to make clear that if we want a successful fairgrounds, we all know that when we're getting an event that draws 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, that there's no way that fairgrounds facility can accommodate parking, period. And so if we want to continue these types of events to bring people to Sonora and Tuolumne County, we need to accommodate them as best we can, and this has been very successful in the past. And so I would move approval of the special events transit service request from the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau.
I'll second it.
Okay, and
Go ahead, John.
John, you have your hand up.
George said what I was going to say, so I don't have to talk anymore. Thank you.
The reason I seconded this is because a couple things. George talked about the benefit to the fairgrounds, and as most of us know, we've had some challenges with our fairgrounds in the recent past, and the path out of those challenges into successes, really meaningful long-term successes, is having events like this. And when we have an event, it's not just the fairgrounds that benefits. One of the beautiful things about our fairgrounds, even though it's physically constrained in terms of the size of the fairgrounds and the parking. But the real benefit to this county and the city of Sonora is that we're one of the very few fairgrounds, I don't know if there is another one, but certainly one of the very few fairgrounds that's in the incorporated area of the city, in our case of Sonora. And that brings economic development, it brings economic vitality, not just to the county, but it brings it to the city as well. So, yeah, while this is for profit, and I appreciate that it's being sponsored by a nonprofit, but the bottom line is here's a entrepreneur, here's a company that is truly trying to invest in our community in meaningful ways that's going to help our economy, help our fairgrounds, help our local businesses, everything. So I'm in favor of it, and that's why I seconded the motion.
John? Okay. It's interesting to see the relationship, to see the opportunity. You know, we've all had ideas and thoughts about the fairgrounds, let alone improving commerce. But I think this brings the best of both worlds. And I hope it goes well. I'm a little concerned about reggae, but, you know, I've had experience with those, and they haven't been good. It's from another lifetime. Just beware. But I applaud you. I thank you. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. And looks like we're on report. Before Tyler goes away, sorry about that. I've been having this thought, and I forgot to do it earlier. I wanted to thank you. I interrupted you while you were on vacation. I was with Kiwanis having an event at Walmart, the major transit stop currently, and there were concerns, so I texted not knowing you were on vacation, but thank you for your prompt response and accurate response. So I wanted to publicly thank you and apologize for the interruption. Thanks. Any reports relating to transit? I'll start with Darren.
Just briefly, I want to mention that, as you know, there was a pretty significant fire in Mariposa County called the Duttweiler Fire. We were requested to provide transit services to the Coultersville area. We did so. We sent a bus down with 2 drivers, a driver and assistant. We picked up, I think it was 3 or 4 people, and as well as their pets, and transported them up to the evacuation center up here at the fairgrounds. And we'll be billing them accordingly, and hopefully they'll pay that bill. We did talk to them about paying that bill, and they agreed to it. So once again, transit was there to help out in an emergency situation. So that's all I have for reports.
Betty, anything at this point? No. All right, we will adjourn the Tuolumne County Transit Agency agenda and give us about a minute to switch gears. All right, at this time, we'll call the Tuolumne County Transportation Council to order. Also, this would be that opportunity for the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. Seeing none, I'll go to the consent calendar. Item 2, approval of the July 12, 2017 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Regular agenda, item 3. Got to go slow with all these numbers. Adopt resolutions 565-18, 567-18, and 568-18, allocating fiscal year 17-18 local transportation funds to various purposes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, before I get started, I need to point out that virtually all of the resolution numbers that are before you tonight had a typographical error. All the -18 should have been -17s. I believe you have updated resolutions, or at least the resolutions that you will sign have the correct numbers on them. So
I thought we were thinking ahead.
These are supposed to be calendar year, not fiscal year, so that was the mistake we made. And I apologize for that. I did check with Carlin, and she says we're good. We don't even have to show resolution numbers on our agendas, so we're okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and launch into this item. As you know, each year we work with the county treasurer to identify how much local transportation funds we have available. This year, she estimated that amount at $1,994,601. That includes available fund balance. And these funds are disseminated based upon the Transportation Development Act, which governs how this small piece of the overall 6-cent sales tax can be distributed is specifically for certain purposes. One of those purposes is administration of the Transportation Development Act program. In that case, we're recommending $79,744 to the agency to do that. We can also provide a 2% set aside for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, which amounts to $37,812. Public transportation services to the city of Sonora and county of Tuolumne is a bit over $1.4 million in recommended funding. We have streets and road maintenance that can receive whatever money's left over after those allocations. Transit and these other purposes have a higher calling on those dollars. There are some years where perhaps we have a downturn in the economy like we had in 08, 09, where we're not able to pass any funds through because the sales tax revenues are so low. I think we saw them as low as $1.3 million about 2008 or 9. But this year it's much more healthy, and we're able to pass through, based on population, 40,974 to the city and 464,881 to the county. You have three resolutions to enact that. We have signatures from both the city administrator as well as the county administrator to support these actions. With that, I recommend that you make the allocations as recommended.
Questions, comments?
We're good.
Any public comment on these? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolutions 565-17, 567-17, and 568-17, allocating fiscal year 17-18 LTF as proposed.
Second.
Almost had me nervous. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, adopt resolution 566-18, allocating $205,436 in state transit assistance funds to the regional public transportation system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a very straightforward item. We get $205,346 in state transit assistance funds available to the county, being that there's only one transit operator, Tuolumne County Transit. We're recommending that they receive the full amount of these funds consistent with Resolution 566-17.
Well, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 565, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong page, 566-17, allocating the staff funds as proposed.
Second.
Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And item 5, adopt resolutions. Is this the same thing, 17?
Yes.
Adopt resolutions 570-17 and 571-17, allocating a total of $141,507 in regional surface transportation program exchange reserve funds to the city of Sonora and the county of Tuolumne for projects that meet the criteria for RSTP exchange funds.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you might recall, a few years ago, we established policy regarding how we were going to disseminate the Regional Surface Transportation Program funds. You have a resolution in your backup that lays that out. This year, on June 14th, 2017, you recognized that there would, after adopting your recommended budget, there would be $141,507 left over available to the city and the county to pursue. We have received applications for these fundings from both the city and the county. The city's project is for $40,000, which would be an add-on to the overall Greenlee-Mono Way widening project that has some paving associated with it. This would allow them to extend the paving, and I think Tim Miller's here tonight. He might want to talk about the project scope as well. The other application we received was from the Community Resource Agency to use the full amount of funds, $141,507, for various projects consistent with the RSTP eligibility requirements. There wasn't a lot of information in that initial submittal. However, they did provide a letter here just today clarifying how they would use those funds in terms of which projects, what the scope would be, cost and schedule. I think David Gonzalez, the Community Resource Agency Director, is here. He can speak to that item as well. When we took this item to the technical and citizens advisory committees, they reviewed these applications, and the recommended action in this report is consistent with their recommendation, which was to provide $40,000 of funding to the city's overlay project on Mono Way, east of Restano Way. And then the remaining amount of funds, $101,507, would go to the Community Resource Agency for the projects that they have requested funding for. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or encourage you to take public input.
Okay. Any questions at this point? All right, I'll go for public comment.
I must have been in the twilight zone when we were at the Citizens Advisory Committee. So there was some concern because the city filled out their application and their paperwork correctly, and the county did not. And so when you fill out these applications, they have to be correct. And the county's was pretty flimsy on detail. Now, I don't know what's in this letter, but I have some concerns about that, because if I went and did something and I didn't do my paperwork correctly, my stuff would go in the round file. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Tim Miller, City Administrator, City of Sonora. Just to elaborate a little bit on our project, the $40,000 would be combined with about $180,000 that the city has to complete an overlay between where the work will end as a part of the Greenlee-Mono Way intersection project, which...
Tim, could I get you to...
Sure.
That might help, yeah. Thank you.
Shorter than me. Which would end at about Sanguinetti on Mono Way and extend that overlay work from that location down to Restano, where it terminated as a part of the Washington Street overlay project. The goal in doing that work is there would then be a new street surface that actually extends from Highway 108 on Stockton that was done by Caltrans up to Washington. The overlay that was done recently on Washington up through Restano would fill in this last segment, and then the intersection would be completed, and then tie into the work that was done on the Mono Way widening. So essentially, from 108 to Fur, the road would be completely improved. So we don't have the funds to complete it entirely based on the engineer's estimate. Without your assistance, we wouldn't be able to complete that work. So it's a relatively small amount, but it has a significant impact to the project, and we'd appreciate your approval of our request.
Okay. Any questions?
Tim, how much of the county's mitigation money have we spent on the Mono Way
The county, through the mitigation funds, which is a separate agreement between the city and the county, not...
Still money. I
It is
understand
still
it. It's still money.
There was about $4 million on Mona Way, and about $2 million we expect on the Mona Greenlee widening project.
Yeah, through those projects, I've been somewhat outspoken on the amount of money that the county contributes to those city. And I do recall during some of the conversations that when we put the last part in, that we were going to put a money that was not going to exceed a certain amount of money.
That's
And that was
correct.
to complete that. And then I do also recall that there was a possibility that if the city got this property and they got excess property, that they would sell it and some of that money would come back to the county mitigation funds. Do we have is there any extra money that's going to come back?
The property owner has decided that he's going to retain that excess property, which is certainly his right to. We don't have the authority to acquire through eminent domain property we don't need for a public project. So the 20,000 square feet that would remain is going to be retained by the property owner. As far as the total project costs, given what we've acquired and the costs that have been incurred, I'm not sure we'll reach the county's cap on the $2 million at this point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
David Gonzalez, Community Resource Agency Director. I just want to make a comment about the paperwork. I'm not going to dispute that the files and paperwork we submitted were, I'm not going to say substandard, but they were exactly what we had submitted to this board in the previous year. And I don't want the impression we're not carrying what we submit. We are mindful of our time. We submitted what we thought was appropriate to meet the needs of this board, and given the director's authority at the last time, that's what we submitted. So I just wanted to clarify that, and we sent a clarifying letter in for your benefit, for you to have that, so you can understand what we were going to use the money for. We weren't asking for an open book. They're exact projects we're looking for. Had we thought about this further, we probably would have submitted more, but we submitted exactly what we did in the last period of time. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Excuse me, so when did you send the clarifying letter?
Today.
Today?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a copy of that.
We don't have it there.
Duke, did you bring extra copies? I thought they were bringing extra copies to disseminate. We can get that copied and distributed.
Okay. Sorry about that. I thought we had given him a bunch of them there. So I just wanted to make sure you understood what was submitted, why it was submitted, to clarify that. And can you copy that? I can go over those quickly. It's a chip seal on Jackson Road, $798,000 project. Is the amount of $678,000 has already been allocated. We're looking for a Cal grant of $119,000 and some miscellaneous change. If that's not awarded, the remainder would come out of this balance that we're requesting to complete the chip seal on Jacksonville Road, I apologize. Signals is the other portion of that. We have approximately 9 controllers out of the 12 that are completely obsolete. About $58,000 is the cost of that total project. This would pay a portion of that. If we had funds that were submitted for that, for those traffic monitoring, we would use the remaining portion for vegetation management along roadsides to avert deteriorations of our roads. Questions?
I do have a question. Can any of the LTF funds be used for any of the projects that, or any of the part of this project that you have?
Yes, that's what we don't have the exact number, so that's why we used all 3 of those. About the $119,000 out of the Jacksonville Road, we know is pending the grant. That's the largest portion of it. The vegetation management, in previous, we'd had over $100,000 for that. It'd be my wishes to have about 60,000 of that to go for the roadside vegetation management. With all the fires that we've been having and the lack of those funds that we've been having for this year, that would go a long ways towards helping in the lower elevations of that.
But if I understand you correctly, there's almost $4 million that's coming back to the county. Some of these dollars could be used for
Portions of them.
portions of it. Okay.
Carl?
I just want to be on the record. I've received at least 3 that I can remember fairly recent complaints this year about the lack of funding and the lack of doing, because of lack of funding, on vegetation management. One in particular in Cuesta Serena area. And that really is impacting our homeowners' ability to meet their CAL FIRE fire safety requirements. So, and we have lost, and I don't know the number, but it's quite a bit of money in what has been historical state funding that we've used for those programs. So
We
this
lost
is
100% of that funding.
yeah. So this is a very significant public safety need that right now is going unsatisfied.
Were there copies being made? I'm a little confused.
Well, what,
We didn't have a copy machine up here.
I don't know.
while, Mr. Chair,
I got the only copy?
All right, we'll bring it back. Connie?
I don't
Yes.
have any other
so,
copies. That was
Mr.
it.
Chair,
Denise, do you have a copy?
as per the resolution,
Thank you.
These dollars, this RSTP Exchange Reserve Fund, is allocated on a competitive basis, correct? And the only 2 competitors are who?
City and the county.
The city and the county. And so what is the proper, the allocations, the application, what's the procedure?
I've attached,
As per the resolution.
The resolution 486-13. And in that resolution, it says requests for allocations shall include a cover letter, project description, scope of work, project schedule, and cost estimates. The TCTC will not require a full project study report, but funding request documentation should be appropriate to the scale of the project as approved by the executive director. Requests should specify if upfront funding is needed, otherwise payments will be made in arrears. That's how we've set the program up. Having said that, I think Mr. Gonzalez is correct. In more recent years, we've accepted a limited explanation, single page from the county for the request, and then follow-up documentation consistent with the resolution at a later date. That's what, in accepting that from the county, I kind of looked to kind of the precedent that was set on prior years and remain consistent with that. And that precedent was set by this board as acceptable.
And the county has fulfilled that requirement where they, after the letter has been sent, they have come
It
back?
appears to meet the minimum requirement.
Yes.
Thank you, Carlin. You saved the day. Tyler broke the machine.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment based on the discussion of the, just want to clarify a couple of things. This board in June had a call for projects, had your resolution as a part of it.
We got a
which requires what the submittal requirements are, and there was a deadline to which we complied with. Last year, a letter was used by the county to solicit funds, and it was granted by the board. And that's the precedent I think that's being referred to, but we weren't asking for funds then. We followed the procedures. The procedures were reestablished by the board when they made this call for funding, or noticed the call for funding. The county didn't comply with those requirements. It's certainly at your discretion to do whatever you'd like to do in the process, but you did define a process, and we followed that process. So to now change the rules and say we don't need to do anything except turn in a letter and say we'd like some money and we'll let you know later what we're going to do with it doesn't seem to be a very fair procedure. So I'll just leave it at that.
Question, Mr. Miller? Sure. If you were in this particular position that the county's in, would you wish this board to help you with your project?
I think we have a legitimate project that the board...
That's not, you're not answering the question I just asked you. I asked you, if you were in the same position and you had a project or projects, would you not like this board to help you with your process?
Certainly.
All right, thank you.
County has needs just like we have needs.
I said thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Tim. Any other public comment?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Well, what?
I think you may have to.
Come on up.
Now you do.
I don't think anybody's disputing how we allocate the money, but we're just, I'm all about the process. So if you have a process in place, then we should do it correctly. And I'm not saying don't give the county the money, but I don't like things that are hinky and stinky. And this looks as hinky and stinky to me as approving the Trado unruly project. That's a little hinky and stinky in my book too. And we should just be upfront and very clear about this. These are the rules. We need to follow these rules. And I would postpone the awarding, well, I would have, I guess, now you've got this letter. I would have postponed the awarding of the money to the county until they followed the rules. Because everybody had the same deadline, everybody had the same rules, and I'm sorry, everybody needs to follow the same rules, and I just think it's kind of hinky and stinky when we change them. Thank you.
Any clarification?
I don't have anything to add at this point.
Okay.
A question.
Okay, George, yes.
So deadline was mentioned. Did the county get the letter in under the deadline?
The initial letter was in under the deadline.
Okay.
I have a comment. From this point forward, it would be great, it would be good if based upon the resolution that's been passed, that it be followed that way. But it looks like in our packets that we have a recommended action here, and which the recommendation is that $40,000 go to the city of Sonora and $101,507 go to the county. Is that staff's recommendation? Oh,
We use the recommendation from the Technical and Citizens Advisory Committee.
oh, from the advisory committee, okay. All right, well, they have a say in this, or at least they have a recommendation, and this is what they recommended.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And, I got to be honest, I have a concern, when I saw the reminder resolution 486-13 and took a look at it, and, what I was looking for were the requirements. And then I looked at the counties, and I'm thinking back to the years that, under my other hat, my other career, trying to apply for a grant for $141,000 with 3 paragraphs, I wouldn't even thought about it. That's going to say that all I'm looking for are the elements to be accomplished, and that's a cover letter, which I didn't see a project description, I didn't see a scope of work, I didn't see a project schedule and cost estimates, and I was really wanting that to make a fair decision. And not having that, I guess you can kind of tell where I'm at. So, for what it's worth. If there's no other public comment, I'll entertain a motion.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
I got a comment. Yeah, I get that, and I think as a minimum, any motion ought to include a reaffirmation by this council that of the requirements that are in the original resolution. However, precedent by this council is, I think the council ought to understand that they have set a precedent in the past by accepting less than that. And, you know, it's a natural reaction, if you will, especially for both staffs, the city and the county, when you're having to prioritize your work to rely on past precedences. So I don't think that it is justified for this council to totally ignore their own complicity, whatever that word is, in allowing this kind of a precedent to have been set and leave the impression out there that that is satisfactory. So I'm concerned from the county's perspective that in a sense, they were somewhat misled by previous precedences that were allowed to, precedent that was allowed to be set. And so I don't like that. I think we led them down the primrose path.
And I'll make a comment that I don't believe I was on this council at the time that happened, so.
Well, I wasn't either, but
so I can only go by what the resolution says.
I'm hearing, well, you have to go
And-
by,
and
you have
what
to
we've
go
heard.
by the facts that have been presented.
Right.
And I don't hear anybody denying that that precedent was set.
Correct.
And I would agree, we did do it. Past practice may have been wrong, and I certainly would agree that any motion should include the idea that we're going to follow the resolution on anything that would come after this, so that it's very clear to the county, very clear to the city, this is the process that we would follow.
Well, with that noted, I'll be happy to make a motion based upon, mostly on what the TAC and the CIC recommended, which is $40,000 going to the city and $101,507 going to the county, with the reaffirmation that what's set in the resolution is followed from this point forward.
Do we have a second? And if we don't, what can we do?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, George?
since we just got this information from the county, and I think it is important that we have, regardless of past practice, that we have this available to us, I would suggest we put this off until this, is there a deadline? Do we have to get this done today?
No, there's not a deadline.
I haven't had time to read the letter at this point, so I would suggest we put it off to the next agenda.
I support that recommendation.
I have to open it again, and I'm not going to do that. So,
It's a moot point for us, because if it's not a part of our project, it won't happen. And put it off for today's one.
I'm not. Didn't come up.
So we'll push it off.
All right, so it looks like consensus is to hold off on a decision, what I'm hearing here.
Bring it back in September?
Yes,
Okay.
okay. All right, with that, it looks like reports.
I want to first mention that both the city and the county have resubmitted previous active transportation program applications for funding under the most recent call for projects from the California Transportation Commission. The city submitted a project to enhance pedestrian safety and traffic flow at the Red Church intersection. And the county's project is to provide sidewalks on Fifth Avenue associated with their project to do a traffic signal and improvements on Fifth Avenue at 108. It's good projects, and I certainly wish them well. I also want to mention that Caltrans is working with the county and the TCTC to hold a public meeting in Groveland. I didn't quite catch a date on that, but it's coming up here in September where they can show the project that they're proposing in response to public input. This is what we would call a project initiation document scoping meeting discussion leading up to a submittal by Caltrans for pedestrian bicycle improvements on 120 through Groveland in the January, February call for projects. And John, I'll get you more details. I know you need way more than what I just gave you. Additionally, we have worked with county and David Ruby specifically helped put together, and Tanya Allen helped us put together an application for $1 million in interregional transportation improvement program funding through the California Transportation Commission State Transportation Improvement Program, Interregional Improvement Program Fund. That $1 million will go to offset cost on the Monoway relinquishment project. Monoway operational project is sometimes what we call it. But it's this would be $1 million payment from the state to the county, consistent with the relinquishment agreement that they have in place. And then I also want to mention that we are kicking off our electric vehicle planning project. It's a project that we are awarded grant funding to work with Calaveras, Amador, Alpine counties, PG&E, public fleet operators to identify where we need chargers for the public, as well as perhaps what fleets could be converted and what funding's available out there to do those conversion of public fleets. We've had a lot of interest from various county entities in changing over some of the fleets to electric vehicles. And then finally, I want to point out on the wall a map that reflects some of the work that Caltrans is doing. We had a meeting at the district. It was pretty productive. They have a lady right now that I can't remember her name, who's the senior right-of-way person down there who's been working on freeing up parcels for sale that are excess parcels along the relinquished route. That map up there shows the different parcels. It has the director's deeds on it, and then that piece of paper there lists each of the parcels and their current status for sale or not. And we're going to make that available in our public areas at the CRA third floor. So if somebody's interested in some of the excess parcels, come on in. We'll be happy to show you the map and walk you through that. But in addition to that, Caltrans is planning on doing an auction of, I think it's around 5 parcels along the corridor. They're first going to have work with us to host a public meeting on available excess right-of-way, so general discussion on all the parcels along the corridor with any interested parties, but also specifically focusing on the 5 or so that they're going to go to auction with. That would happen about a month later here in Tuolumne County. So we're going to help them through all that and hopefully generate some sales. That's all I have for...
So when you have the map at CRA, who do they see, who do they ask to talk with, answer questions?
Duke York and myself, Darren Grossi, are the ones that are most knowledgeable on this subject.
Okay, thank you. That it?
That's it. I will be at the California Transportation Commission meetings next week. Wednesday.
Bring back money.
Try every
Bring
time.
back good news. Go to Let me get Betty. Betty, what do you have from Caltrans for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and
Doesn't sound like. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. That's the echo I was looking for.
Thank you. Caltrans is having a emergency relief training on August 23rd at District 10. And also there's a partnership meeting the same day. The emergency relief training is from 9 to noon, and the partnership meeting is from 10 to 12. Good news, the new priest grade turnouts were finished yesterday.
Oh.
So,
Did you know that?
hallelujah.
I didn't know they were finished yesterday, but I have seen them under construction, and I think they're going to be great. So thank you.
So,
Good news. Thank
yes, hot off the press.
you. Bottom, middle, and top.
The grant program dates that are coming up, the year 17-18 augmentation, call for projects is September. The due date is October 20th with December awards. Fiscal year 18-19 sustainable transportation and climate change adaptation. There's a January call for projects, February due date, and May awards. And the ATP augmentation applications closed August 1st. Recommendations to the CTC for August 31st. And then hopefully go for a vote at the meeting in October. ATP Cycle 4, January and February will be a call for projects. And on August 4th, the Sonora pedestrian, Lewis from our traffic division, he actually changed the pedestrian crossing, added an additional 5 seconds so they can get out into the intersection so people can see them better. And they're going to try that for a couple weeks and see if it makes a difference. And
Was that at Stockton Road and Washington Street?
Yes.
Okay, an additional 5 seconds, okay.
Yes.
And when you say you're going to do it for 2 weeks to see if it makes a difference in what?
Well, if there's more visibility and the public can see the pedestrians better, just for feedback.
Okay, so you're looking for feedback is what you're looking for.
Less hits, less near misses?
Yes.
Sorry, that's the highway.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the highway patrolman talking.
No such thing as a near miss.
Oh, yes, there is.
No, a near miss is a hit.
He's dropping bombs again.
I think that's all I have.
Tell about Clark Howard, because that was a near miss.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you very much.
Duke York, Deputy Director in charge of roads and engineering. First thing I'd like to do is, when Darren and I went down to the meeting in Caltrans to talk about the excess lands, we were concerned because it's been many years that we've been promoting this process, and I want to say that it was a very successful meeting. I want to specifically thank Linda Hennings, and she was there. Arvinder Bajwa was kind of the facilitator for the meeting, but Linda Hennings has taken charge of that issue, and she's moving it ahead, and we're very appreciative of that fact. One of the things with those properties, as you can see, there, this is the motorway interchange right here. This is your standard intersection. Here's where the new signal is at the eastern end, and many of those parcels are could have a very big effect on stimulating our local economy. So it's a very good thing. And one of the things we struggle with is when you're talking to Caltrans, they use director deed numbers. When we're dealing with these properties in the county for sale, we're using assessor parcel numbers. And you need a Caltrans County dictionary to be able to translate, so we figured out which parcels go with which APN numbers so that we can be on a common page. Some of the things that I would like to report on is that we are currently reviewing plans for what we call the 30% plans for the Rawhide Bridge. These are an initial version, and I did make a copy available to Darren at his request. Some of the projects that we have that are coming to the Board of Supervisors meeting on the 15th that are certainly transportation related. We have a project on the Jacksonville Road Bridge, methacrylate treatment, and that's a big contract there. We also have a paving job on Jackson Street and Yankee Hill Road that's moving ahead. We are issuing a bid book for a variety of storm damage repair. As you all know, we had a declaration of a disaster. We have over $8.5 million worth of storm damage countywide. That has taken a toll on my staff time in dealing with those additional projects, but that's going to the board. Also, the Hardin Flat Road Bridge Replacement Project. For your benefit, the Hardin Flat Road Bridge is right there next to the Berkeley camp that was totally decimated by the rim fire. That was a wooden bridge. The fire did have adverse impact, and it's a total replacement on that bridge. The other project that we have is what we call a bridge preventative maintenance project, and that's of several locations throughout the county to extend the lives of those bridges.
Duke, the Hardin Flat Bridge, are we replacing a wood bridge with a wood bridge?
No, we're not.
Thank you.
No, it will be made out of concrete. So, I think I had one other item I was going to mention. Buchanan Bridge project is moving ahead. That's a federal lands access program. We basically have gone for 2 flap projects now. One dealing with Buchanan Bridge, that's going to be happening the next year. And then the other big project is about $18 million for Evergreen Road. So those are a couple of really great projects. You might have seen recently a lot of work being done to replace regulatory and warning signs. That's part of the requirements of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices to make the signs more visible. It was funded through a grant application. And I think those are the big ones. There will be, we're at 95% plans on the improvements, what we call Highway Safety Improvement Project, which is the Paris Ferry Road, Union Hill project, and that is very close to completion. The utility work is currently going on there, and the Fifth Avenue project. So anybody has any questions, I'm available.
The parcels that Caltrans are going to put up for sale, is there a minimum price on them at this point, or no?
I believe they do an assessment of the value of those properties, and that's where they start the auction at. That's a great question for Linda Hennings as to how they decide what to put them up for, but there are a bid that they have based on some assessed value. Yeah. Some of these properties are public lands because they were originally had a general plan designation of public. Some of them have commercial designations, so they're all kind of all over the place. But as I said, some of these have public water, public sewer, and they're front right on Mona Way, so they're from a economic standpoint, they're extremely important.
I would suggest you let Larry Cope from the Economic Development Authority know about this as soon as possible, along with the County Association of Realtors.
I think that was mentioned
I can certainly do that.
previously.
Yeah, that's been talked about before with you guys.
Okay.
So, that's a reminder. Any other reports? Seeing none? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.